So welcome to another edition of Artist Spotlight. Hi Hazel.
Hi.
We're welcoming the wonderful Liz Ficalora. Am I saying your name right?
Yes.
Okay, very fantastic. I've known Liz for a few years, thankfully, and she's such a very cool person and's got such a varied career in drumming and chart building and those kinds of things. And we're going to talk about all of that. But welcome, Liz, and welcome everybody else that can be with us here live, and anybody else that's going to be watching us later on through YouTube and other social media outlets. So thank you, Liz, for being here. And I just want you to let everybody know kind of how did you get started with drumming? How did you choose that over other instruments?
Oh my God, you're going to go way back now.
We're
Okay.
going way back.
Way back. It started when I was 8.
Okay.
8 years old. I was on a cruise ship. Oh, and this all ties in, right? I was on a cruise ship with my parents, and we were going to Nassau, and I saw this Italian drumming band on board, and I saw the drums, and I just said, I sat real close to him. I said, I don't care how loud these are. I'm gonna sit here and listen to this. And I just said, that's what I want to do. And it was 8 years old.
Nice.
It took me till I was 15 when I finally could convince my parents that's what I wanted to do.
That was my next question.
They gave me the piano, then they gave me the flute, and I did all those things. I still play piano. And then they handed me bongos finally, and I was like, no. And then I said, Dad, Karen Carpenter is playing. There is a female drummer. And he goes, okay, but you have to take lessons. I'm like, okay. So that's how I started. It was like 15.
That is fantastic. So who did you take from? Was it somebody local?
I took from a local. And then here's the coolest part is that when I started, I was playing with a practice pad. And then we were going to New York City one night, and I said, hey, Dad, can you take me to Manny's Music Store? I don't know if anybody remembers Manny's Music Store. This giant music store in New York City. I want to see the drums. So my father said, sure, we'll take you. So I went into the store, and I'm seeing all these drum sets and the colors, and it was just like amazing, right? And then all of a sudden my father says, come over here. I want you to pick out a color for your drum set. And my father bought me my first kit.
That is fantastic.
You know what it was?
I love that.
It was a Ludwig Standard silver because I let him pick the color. I want him to pick the color. Now that's a collector's item.
Oh yes, yes it is very much.
Very
That's
much.
fantastic. So okay, so at 15 you really started playing drum kit, and
Yes.
you were taking lessons. So did you play in school? Were you in the percussion section?
Immediately. My mother said, now you got to get into school and get in the band in school. So I went, now it's been about a year, and I was 16, and I went over to the band director, and he took me, and I remember I also knew how to read music already at that point. He just said, okay, I'm putting you in the band. I'm putting you in the steel band, and then I'm going to put you in all the drama companies. We had drama groups coming in and doing their musicals at our school. He put me on percussion on all of those, and I was reading music all the time. I was like immediately in. And then I was in a band, a steel band, and we started touring. I mean, I was 16 and I was touring. And then we did a record, and we did the record in Vermont. And then we toured Romania, and then we went to London, and we went to different places. So I was touring immediately, and we got a record deal too. So it was a really interesting start for me.
That is fantastic. So you get back, you graduate from high school, and what do you do after that? Do you go to school for music, college?
Yeah, in fact, I quit. I didn't quit. I graduated early from high school. I did it in 3 years instead of 4, and then went immediately applied to get into Berkeley and studied at Berkeley for 4 years.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
That's an amazing education, Berkeley. Yeah, the people that come out of there, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, it was very intense, but I loved it. And I went from high school grades being about C's and maybe some D's. I mean, I just got by and graduated. I'm telling you, it was really by chance that I managed to graduate. But when I got into music school, it was all A's.
Yeah, because you're doing what you love.
Yeah, you're doing what you love. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so going from reading piano music to reading drum music, was that a hard transition for you, or did you pick it up really quickly?
Oh, no, really easy because it's all about rhythms. I think it's easier to actually read drum music than piano music.
Okay.
I teach both. So I take the students, right? I teach them drum music for the rhythms, and then I put them into piano, and then they can see how the two go together.
Fantastic. Yeah, but they're both percussive, so they really
Oh,
have to understand
that's
that.
why I won't stop playing. I still love it.
That's fantastic. Okay, so after Berkeley, what did you do?
I got out of school, and I was supposed to get a job as a teacher in school systems because I had gotten a bachelor's degree in music education.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to go into the schools. Well, I did 3 interviews and I blew all 3 interviews. And I remember coming out of the last interview with my head down and said, that's it. I am not doing this. I don't have enough experience of playing of music to be able to teach these kids. And the kids that I were teaching, they thought I just graduated from high school. This is how
Okay.
young I looked, right? So I took out all these applications. I had 150 applications. I threw them out and I joined a band and I started songwriting. And that's where my career
Nice.
started taking off.
Okay, so what was the band that you joined?
I joined, oh my God, it was like a trio. And then I met this singer, and we created a band from there, and we joined another band from there. I mean, I've been in about 40 bands.
Wow. Okay.
A lot.
And
And
you're still drummer for hire.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm working with new artists now. Now that I'm living in Nashville, but at that time I was living in Massachusetts.
Okay.
I was
So
doing
what was the transition to get you from Massachusetts to Nashville?
oh that's one of the stories I had written. The transition is when your life falls apart, move. You know, so and my relationship broke up. I was in a terrible job. The band was breaking up, and I wanted to play with a band and go on the road. So
Okay.
I had while before I even wound up moving, I actually the seed was planted when I went to a gig. I was playing with a country band at the time. This was January. I went to play with a country band, and this bass player comes in, and I said to her, I said, you know, this is what I want to do. She goes, you have to move to Nashville. And I'm like, oh yeah, right. Let's go move to Nashville. Right. Well, the seed was planted, and her name was Mary Ann Messina. Now, wait till I tell you who she really is. So she told me go to Nashville. And so I went home going, I'm not going to go to Nashville. Well, I wound up moving to Nashville in July of the same year because I said,
Wow.
that's it. I am moving. I had to, because I couldn't stay where I was staying. The band was breaking up and I was in a lousy job. So I thought, well, I can get another lousy job, but at least I could be somewhere where I might be able to get somewhere. So I packed up my van and I packed up my drums, my bed, and my cooking stuff. And I took off and went to down to Nashville, and I got an apartment within about 2 days.
Okay.
And then I stayed. Then 6 weeks later, I found an ad for a band looking for a drummer. So I auditioned. I beat out 14 drummers, and I got into a band that I went on the road with, and it was me and 5 guys.
Wow.
You can imagine at the first gig, they said, we're going to come and pick you up at 10 at night because we're playing Chicago the next day. And I said, oh, okay.
Oh my God.
I know, just imagine. And so I come out and I put my drums on the side of the road at 10 o'clock at night. And I'm sitting there going, okay, these guys are going to pick you up in this van and they're going to take you to Chicago, supposedly. And you're going to play in this band. I'm like, yeah. And all of a sudden this van appears, and it's this extra long Ford van with a giant trailer. And so it was like driving an 18-wheeler.
Oh yeah.
And the guys jumped out of the van. They took my stuff, threw it all in. In seconds, I was in the van, and off we went. And then
Wow.
I know, and I'm sitting in the van going, I can't believe this. And then all the fighting and that I had in my head of this is what I want to do disappeared. And I went, I'm doing it. I'm on the road. I'm looking around. I'm on the road, and we're going to Chicago. I'm doing it. And I just relaxed, and it was just the best experience being on the road with those guys. I had so much fun. And we played these huge dance clubs because you play whatever someone's going to pay you to play. And I didn't have a job at the time, right? So we were playing. It turned out they were playing the really big country dance clubs. So I went from playing in Massachusetts to like 30 drunk people.
Right.
I'm in the corner, to going on this stage where I have airline lights on me, and I'm on a 4-foot stage, and all these lights are coming on me, and there's 3,000 people. My stomach turned. I mean, I had so much trouble with my stomach because it was such a change, such a
Yeah.
big change. But it was a welcome change, and I was getting a lot of exposure because the DJs said, "Look at this! There's a female drummer. She's playing the drums." It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. All I was thinking was, I got to play this stuff, and that's actually how I got charting, because I had to chart out 96 songs, and then we left for Chicago in 2 weeks. That's where all the charting came from.
Well, let's start talking about that. So, why don't you just tell them what you mean about the, figuring out how to chart really quickly, and then what that went into.
So to do, well,
Yeah.
I always wanted to sound like Journey, the band Journey. So I wanted to chart out a song when I heard the song, so that I could pretty much get close to what they were doing. So I developed this method of charting out the song form and a few beats, so I'd know what was in the song. And then it's pretty much you're counting pretty much and following one of the patterns. It's not reading bar after bar, because to me that made my eyes roll backwards. It was really hard to focus and just play. So I had to find a way to just map it out. So I started doing that in the 80s with the cover bands. But when I got into the country band, they handed me so many songs, I had to really fine tune it. So I wound up charting 96 songs in 2 weeks. And then I put those songs in a special book so that I could turn them for each song, because they did everything in order, which was great. And so I would just turn the pages, and then I have to count the band in. And so I set myself up to succeed. And the charting method kind of developed after that. I realized how great these charts were to read. I was playing it just like the record. That's what they wanted, especially in country music. Country
Yeah.
is extremely rigid. And I'm a jazz person, really, in my blood, but I'll play country. Some of the country is fabulous, but it's rigid. And I find myself, if I'm not playing it perfectly, it makes me nervous. So I find rock is a little simpler, but jazz is like very relaxed. You don't have to worry about mistakes, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
yeah,
how did that go from you were charting for yourself to developing a method that you could put into a book and then later on into a program?
okay, all right, yeah. Now that goes from that. I always wanted to write. I was obsessed with how-to books.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
always wanted to write a how-to book. And I met this guy, and I told him about wanting to write a how-to book, and he said, "This is what you do. What do you know that someone would pay to know?" And I was like, "Well, what do I know?" And I went, "Well, I know how to write a drum chart," and that's how it started. And then I
Okay.
started writing the book, and the book actually turned out to be really like a 12-page manual when it was first written. And then I decided to expand it to advanced section, and then I added charts, and all of a sudden it went to 54 pages. And then with that book, I thought I had enough to be able to make it a book now. Now it was out of the manual thing, and I decided to I wanted to get it published and see if I could get a publishing deal. Do you want me to tell you about the publishing deal?
Absolutely. I'd love to know.
So this is how you get a publishing deal. You call them.
Okay.
So, I did a few things because I really went around. How do you get a major publishing deal? And when I start doing things like this, I just start focusing and I just go for it. And I found a guy who had gotten a publishing deal, and he said, "This is what I did." So I did what he did, and I emailed a company that finds placements for books. And so they said, "Let me see your book." I filled out all this information. I think it was. I didn't show them the book. I filled out information. They wrote me back. They said, "You'd be a good fit for Alfred. Contact this guy." So I said, "Okay, I'll contact." So I contacted this guy, and he said, "I want to see your book." And I said, "Okay." So I put it in a book. I mailed it and went out. 3 months later, I was like, I haven't heard from them, and they have my book.
Yeah.
Now
That's scary.
they have my book. Okay. Even though it's copywritten, they have my book. So I said, I'm just going to call. So I called them up and I said, I'm looking for, and I mentioned the guy's name. I can't remember his name. And they said, oh, he was let go. And
Oh,
I thought to myself, he hasn't contacted. Maybe they did. Maybe he got fired. Maybe he got let go. And he did. He was let go. She goes, but I'll let you talk to this other guy. So I got on the phone with this other guy and we talked and talked. He was a really nice guy. He goes, oh, that guy was let go. And let me go look for your book. And so I kept my mouth shut. I said, just let him look for your book. And I hear these footsteps. And then I hear this rustling of paper. And then he says, oh, here it is. So I was all excited about that, but I kept quiet. And then he goes, oh, let me look at it. And then I hear, mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, this is, mm-hmm. You're hearing. And he goes, I like this. He goes, let me show it to the sales department and I'll get back to you. And so I said, okay. And so a week later, I called him and he goes, they said it's a go. We're going to do it. I said, well, send me the contracts. So then I went through all the contracts and stuff. And then, they give you a guy to help you. It was already written in publishing software. So I gave it to them and they just embellished it and fixed things up and polished it and put a nice cover on it. And that's how
nice.
I got that. And then it wound up in Amazon and of course you get this notoriety. You don't make that much on the books, but look, it got me all over the place.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so how did it go from being a copy of a book to a program?
Oh, all right. That's another story. Before I got the publishing deal, the year before I got the publishing deal, I was obsessed with teaching charting because I had written the book. I was like, I've got a master class. I can do this. So I submitted at the last moment, 11 o'clock at night, the last day you could submit to PASIC. I mean, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
the last day, the last hour, boom, go. All right. So it went out. I was just hoping for the best. And that's like in January, because you have to do it in January. And then all of a sudden in June, this email pops up and said, congratulations, you're going to do a master class. So I wound up, having to go, I put together a PowerPoint and the whole deal. And then I went to PASIC and I did a master class there. Now, while I was there, I was trying to get all the drum magazines to talk to me. And I went to Modern Drummer magazine and they didn't want to give me the time of day. But as I was sitting talking to them, and there was another guy standing right next to the booth, and he started talking to me. And I said, well, I've got this book and I've got this method. And then we started talking. And then he said something that triggered off this idea. And it was like, it's like putting color into water. All of a sudden it goes like this.
Uh-huh.
And I looked at this guy and I said, and just like I'm going to tell you, my head was going, so you are telling me to make this book into a membership site and make it a software product. And he got me going, mm. And that's how it started. And that guy said, and you should call it DrumChartBuilder. I said, okay. And I did. So he and I were friends. He was at PASIC and we're still good friends.
So how long did it take you to really develop that?
Oh, well, at the time I could also build websites. So
Okay.
I took that website technology and I started making it work for a demonstration of the software I wanted, with drop downs and changing things. I mean, it wasn't a workable. It was just a demonstration of this is how I wanted it. And so I then hunted around for a developer. And while I was at the NAMM show in Nashville, I came across this guy that does development. And he talked to me. He wouldn't stop talking. Developers are like that. He started talking for 45 minutes. And I walked away from him after that. He gave me his card. I gave him my card. And I was just like, he's never going to do anything. He was just so, oh my gosh, so much information. About 2 months after that, he calls me. He goes, I hope you remember me, but I figured out how to do your software. And I said, you did? He goes, yes, I'm going to call you in a week and I'll give you a demo. And so he calls me in a week. He shows me online how it worked. And I was like, oh my God, he did it. And then we worked out a deal. And then he built it. And within 2 months, he built it. And then
Wow.
I took the software and I went and I released it at the PASIC show in San Antonio. And I was so excited, because I'm walking down, I had it was a last moment table. Everything's last moment. Last moment,
Yeah.
so I was way in the back, right? But I'm walking down. I'm going in as a vendor this time into PASIC, right? And so I'm walking down the aisle, and I'm looking for my booth, and I get down, and all of a sudden I see drum chart, and it blows your mind to see. Oh my God, I did it! And I had
Yeah.
set up the table with a computer and a screen behind the table so that I could project the computer onto the screen so they could see me doing it. There was a computer for demonstrations. And so I just started talking. And these people were coming up and they were asking me for cards and they were interested in it. I sold like $200 worth of subscriptions, and it was really neat. And all I was doing was praying that nothing would crash, that nothing would.
Right.
It never crashed. And I was worried about internet access. So I kept,
Yeah.
my phone was the hotspot and I was sweating it. It's like, I hope this worked. And it worked. For 2 days, it worked.
That's fantastic. What a cool story, Liz. So now, I can attest to how wonderful this drum chart builder is, because Liz heard me tell a story about, I played with the country band one time. There was somebody from Nashville coming through Oklahoma. She wasn't going to bring her whole band, so it was going to be her and her partner that play together, and they were going to hire a bass player and a drummer. And they found me on Facebook and they hired me, and they sent me, I think 72 songs, which I don't listen to country music. So I knew one song. It was a John Denver song from way back. Everything else was like the new country crossover stuff. So I had to learn all of that music and try to chart it for myself, which was a nightmare because I don't write or read drum music very well, because I never had lessons, taught myself how to play. So I was really struggling through that. And Liz said, "Oh, I've got something for you," because I play in about 4 bands a week a lot of times, and I have to memorize all these charts. I'm trying to memorize everything. And she said, "You don't have to memorize it all, just chart it and it's going to be right there. You don't have to look at it, but if you need to look at it, it's there." So that's how I got started on it. And it is really simple, and it is life-saving if you have a lot of things that you're having to memorize. So and it's cheap. It's not an expensive, put down a whole bunch of money to use this. It's a year, and it was like, what was it, $40 or, yeah. So inexpensive. That's a nice dinner, but I use it all year, and it's so worth the money. So if you guys, after this, if you ever want to check it out, I think you get like a couple of weeks for free or something to try it. Yeah. So, there's no reason for you not to look into it, but it's DrumChartBuilder.com, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So awesome. So besides doing the drum chart building and having that part of your business, I know that you play for artists as a hire. So do you have a specific band that you're in all the time, or do you just play for whatever people call you and hire you?
I do have a specific band. I've been working with the Jill Sissel band for years. I
Okay.
produce all of her stuff, and we just got an award for her Americana album. And we're working on another one right now. This is great because she's going to start working with another girl, and we're going to do a duo. And we're putting together their album now. I'm an audio engineer and producer and arranger and all. And so the 3 of us get together. They're writing songs like crazy, and we're putting them down and trying to pick them the greatest songs to put them on this record. So that's what I work with. I'll be working with them hopefully soon, in the future, doing more concerts. But I love Americana music, so I was glad to be working with them. I also work with another artist, Stephanie Arbina Jones, and she's international. She was a friend of mine. It's all about relationships. So I met her at my church, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, she calls me, "Hey, you want to play percussion?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to play percussion for you." And so she now is doing all sorts of stuff, and her career is growing, and we're in touch sometimes. And so she's someone I work with a lot, and we're all helping each other to build our careers to get to the spot where we're at that level where we're getting the awards. In fact, we're focusing on trying to get over a Grammy now. It's great. My goal is an Oscar, but maybe. But we have to write the song for a film. So
Yeah,
it's a tough goal, but it can be done.
absolutely. And if anybody can do it, I know that you can do it for sure.
I got to find that filmmaker that needs that song. That's it.
Yes. You guys that are here, does anybody have a question for Liz?
I don't have a question. This is Debbie. I have a comment.
Oh,
And hey, Liz. How's it
Debbie!
going?
Oh my God!
Hey, girl. So I'm actually in Virginia right now. I had a little mini tour, and I'm kind of stuck up here for a minute, but I'll be back soon. But Mike, I want to just say to everybody who's out there listening that you should definitely get DrumChartBuilder. And she's not paying me to say this. I work in Nashville as well, and if you work in Nashville, you have to learn so much music so fast. And I play with so many different artists, and I don't know country music either. I'm learning it, and trust me, now I do know it. After 2 years of living in Nashville, I know it a lot better. But when I first came to town, I picked up this really big gig with Karen Waldrop. She's got over 1 million followers, and now I'm her drummer after a sub gig. So, but I had to learn all her music, and it was all original, and it was a lot, and it was like, so it was totally different and very complicated drum parts. Her drummer that she used in the studio didn't just play straight four on the floor. It was difficult. A lot of changes, lots of parts, and that DrumChartBuilder saved my butt, I will tell you. And, because of it, I really think it helped me get the gig. So, I just can't say enough about it. And I can't say enough about Liz either. She's a fine human being. So, anyways, I definitely would advocate for it. And if you don't know how to read music also, it might help you to do that some, because, I think she also has some charts out there you can buy. So you can listen to the song and try to figure out how to read too. And I think, I play by ear and I read, and I think knowing both is very much important, especially in Nashville. But also, if you want to get some of these bigger gigs, sometimes they just throw the chart at you and you don't even have but 5 seconds to learn it. So, you kind of have to know it depending on what level you want to play. So, but anyway, I would just say that, definitely go check out DrumChartBuilder, and I'm not getting paid to say this. Thank you for your great product.
Debbie, so great. Debbie's an excellent drummer. She came over panicking. She's got all these tunes to do. And I'm like, okay, let's work this out. Let's figure this out. Because being prepared is what they're looking for. They don't want to waste time. So, and I've landed gigs because I was prepared. There's a story where I was going out for a gig with a theater company, and they handed me a medley. They sent me a CD of a medley, or it was just a file of a medley. So I charted it out. So when I went for the audition, there was a drummer before me, and he started to play it, but he hadn't charted it out. He didn't really know it, and looked like he was relying on the bass player to help him through it. And he really messed up. Yet I thought he was a great drummer, but he didn't know he couldn't do what they wanted him to do. Then I got up there and I just read it down because I had it all charted out, and I got the gig out of it. So always it's about being prepared. They don't want to waste any time.
That's the truth.
Agreed.
So you got to know it. And and if you can, and they allow you to read charts. So don't worry about not trying to be, really good and memorize everything. Don't do it. Just keep your charts with you for a while until you don't need them anymore.
Yep, exactly.
Just keep your metronome. That metronome.
Yeah. Oh, and the chart builder also has like for me, I have several playlists that I use each week. So I can actually have my 5 or 10 songs on this playlist, and I can touch the song and it will actually click off my metronome. So I'll know what the tempo is for the next song, which is such a cool feature. I love that. So well done, Liz.
Oh, thank you. Well, everything that DrumChartBuilder does is exactly the way I needed it done.
Yeah.
It's coming from experience, and because we're working drummers and we know this is what I need to get this band going, because we're the leader.
Right.
I need that tempo. I've got to know how it starts, and I've got to know how it ends. I can probably work my way through the rest of the song. I've got to know how it starts, and I've got to know how it ends.
Yeah, so important. Now I know that you have students as well. So do you do in-person students, or are you almost exclusive Skype lessons?
the moment I'm doing all Zoom lessons, and I have one student that comes by and eventually thinks, when I got my first vaccine yesterday. Once we all start to get the vaccine, I think I can take more in the studio, because we use the studio and I use the electronic kids. Kids come in, they use the kit, and I play the tracks, and they can see how they're playing by looking at the MIDI data, and it's really cool.
Yeah,
And
how
they're learning
nice.
faster. But I'm liking the Zoom thing. I'm telling you, it's I don't have to drive anywhere. The parents aren't stressed out. The kids are calmer and they're learning better. So I'm liking the Zoom thing. I'm kind of hoping not to get away from that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know a lot of artists teach through Zoom exclusively, really. It's so nice because you can have one person right after the other instead of having to let them in your house or you having to go to them and all of that. It's just,
Right.
it's so easy that way.
Right. And it's back to back. And
Yeah,
you said they're home and they're so relaxed. And
yeah.
they're learning better. And then what's really funny is that when I started talking about other things about drumming, because I'm teaching Latin now. Some of my students have gone beyond jazz, they're going to Latin. And they'll say, well, what is a fushi? And I'll say, oh, I've got one back here. And so because I've got everything here, so I can show them when I couldn't do that before. Or if I
Right.
look for certain books that I've got, everything is here. So it just makes the lesson better.
Yeah, I agree very much.
Yeah, and with students, I'm teaching GarageBand and Logic because I do a screen share.
Okay. How cool.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really,
yeah. That's really, really cool. But you've got a studio, so you're a leg up on a lot of people that just have, a single camera or something when they're doing Zoom lessons.
oh, right. Well, I
Yeah.
don't use the computer camera. I'll use my phone as a second camera.
Okay. Yeah. I know that there are some that have, they have like an overhead and then they have one that's for their bass drum foot maybe. And then they have one that's straight on.
Yeah, right.
So that makes it nice that they can switch back and forth. I really need something like that if I'm going to start doing a lot of students again. It's so helpful when you can actually look bird's eye view and you can really see what they're doing instead of just straight on. And especially if you're teaching some really tricky bass drum patterns, it's nice to be able to see exactly how their foot is addressing the pedal, when they're doing triplets or something. It's
Exactly.
really nice for that beginner, especially to know exactly how is your foot on the pedal, because you can't tell with a one single view. So
Yeah, I have them move the camera around.
yeah, that's good.
Yes, all
Hang on, I gotta move it.
the
Exactly.
a lot of the students only have one camera. So you
Yeah,
got to do the best you can. And
exactly.
but they don't mind. This is what's wonderful. I said, "Can you hear the music?" "Oh yeah, I hear the music." So the students are relaxed and it's working for them.
And I found that as well. I really love doing the Zoom lessons. I do enjoy having people in person because then you can play together and there's no lag. With Zoom or with Skype lessons, sometimes there's like even a second behind, so you can't really play together as much because sometimes there's just a little bit of a hiccup there. But still, they could parrot what I'm doing, and I can see exactly how they're playing it. So yeah, it works out.
Yeah, in fact, with that, because that is that little delay, it makes me stop so that I have to watch them. Just watch them instead of getting into my own thing. Because
Right.
you can get away with. You start playing like, yeah, this is great, and then wait a minute, it's their lesson.
Right.
um,
Right.
uh,
Yeah. When I do it in person, one thing that my students really enjoyed was trading fills. So playing together, that was really good because
yes,
so many people, and I know that you can attest to this. So many people are really comfortable with snare, bass, drum, hi-hat, but as soon as you try to get them off of that to do a fill, that's where they don't feel as comfortable. So making them feel comfortable all over their kit and not just at home base.
I know, Miss, yeah.
You know what I mean? That like this feels very comfortable. If I start doing anything out here, that's very foreign. So I immediately try to get them to play on all of the drums, all of the cymbals, so everything feels like home base. It all feels comfortable.
Right. It's so funny. I'm remembering a student saying, I'm very comfortable here. And I
Yeah.
don't want to move, but I'm just going to play like this.
Right. You can't do that all like right here.
Yeah, it's trying to, it's getting that flow happening. So you got to get them away from this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So even when I'm teaching, and I might be teaching like paradiddles, we'll do paradiddles on the snare, and then we'll move it to paradiddles, moving the right hand all around the kit and keeping the left on the snare, so that we're still doing paradiddles, but I want them to feel comfortable moving around the kit, whatever pattern.
Mm-hmm. And it changes things.
It does.
On the snare, as soon as you move your hand, it's like all of a sudden it's foreign. It's like I'm going to play the same pattern, but maybe it's because of the sound changes, but it just doesn't feel the same. It's like like home base, right? But it's foreign. You're right. And I'm like, how do you get this? I said, now put your left hand on the hi-hat and put your right hand on the floor tom. I want you to really open up.
Yeah.
Nothing, and you can't do a paradiddle that way.
Right. I know. It's so much fun though.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So we have so many new drummers, not young drummers necessarily, as many as just, we've got lots of like 40s, 50s, 60s somethings that I finally raised my kids. I'm divorced. I'm finally doing what I want, whatever the story is. I hear so many of those, and they're just starting to learn. And we have phenomenal drummers in our group, and everybody's posting all these videos that just make your mouth drop, So what kind of advice, as a very seasoned drummer that's been playing for a lot of years, what advice would you give these new beginning drummers?
As to just playing, I would definitely tell you to listen to as many recordings as possible and dig the drums out to understand try to understand what they're doing. What is the bass drum doing? And try to dig it out of the recording. You've got to understand that it's a non-tonal sound, and just you've got to be able to pick it out, because if you can't, then you won't know what to copy. Because it's easy to say, oh, copy what the drummer's doing. But if you can't hear it, you're not going to be able to copy. So you've got to understand what a hi-hat sounds like, what a bass drum sounds like, and a snare drum sounds like in a mix, because they bury it. Now, the bass drum is usually, not always, but usually connected to the bass. So you have to listen real close. What is the bass player doing? And is the bass drum right behind it? So you're listening for a non-tonal sound, and eventually you start to hear it, because you have to just find out what you're listening for. What does a hi-hat really sound like in a recording? Because they're changing the sound of them. It's not because of electronics. The sound is not like it used to be.
That's true. And I've even found that, and I can pick up the drums really easily. I even teach classes on how to deconstruct music and that kind of thing. But so many times now, with the changes that they've made in the recordings, ghost note on the snare and some of the hi-hat sound the same, and so it's really hard to pick apart what is the hi-hat and what is the ghost note if there's a lot of things going on with the drummer. So you have to be able to pick that apart.
Once you get that, then start copying whatever they're playing with the drums, and then start practicing that. You don't necessarily have to read, though. That'll get you a little quicker to where you want to go. My next thing would be is then start asking friends to come and play, and get used to playing in a group, because that camaraderie is just, there's nothing like it. Having everybody trying to work together and creating and playing a song. And then you'll know what you need to learn. It's funny, you feel real safe at home by yourself, but when you're out in front of people, all of a sudden you realize what you don't know.
Yeah. Now, when you were in the beginning, did you ever record yourself playing so that you could see what you were doing right and what you were doing wrong?
No. At that time, we were recording, I was doing 4-track cassettes, and then we did go in the studio. We were doing demos in the studio.
Okay.
But we didn't, nobody was doing video at that time, and it was just recording. I guess we did, because I've got a bunch of tapes of us playing, but I never really criticized what I was doing. I never really got on my case about it. And I love
that.
You just did it, and you just hope for the best, kind of. But I remember the recording studio that we went into was a 16-track, 2-inch tape, reel-to-reel studio, and there was no automation on the mixing board, so everybody had to get on the mixing board to do the final mix. I mean, it was just great stuff. We were all together. We were such a group, and everybody had to do their part. But we did our demos, and we were doing 3-song demos to send to record companies, because at that time you needed to get on record companies. So we were sending them to Arista, some of the bigger names that of course don't exist right now. And you were just hoping for the best that they come back. And once they asked us for more stuff, so we did another demo. We were just trying to get, a record deal like everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you think of a concert or a venue that you played that really stood out in your mind? I know that you've played hundreds, maybe thousands of concerts, but is there one or two that really stands out as, I love this, I feel like I've made it, or this is the most fun I've ever had?
Yeah, when I was on the road with that band, well, gosh, there's two. I was on the road with that band. We were opening up for Colin Ray.
Okay.
We were in this major venue, and we were doing the 6 nights thing. So on the weekends, an artist would come in, and then because we were doing the 6-night thing, we got the opportunity to be the opening act for a major act that came in. Okay, so we had this opportunity. Colin Ray was coming in from out of town, and I was so nervous. I was in the back, and I was just really, really nervous. Okay, so they finally said, "Okay, you guys are on." And just like you see in the movies, we're walking up this long hall, and it goes up. It's going up in pitch. It's just like, well, it's like uphill. So we're going up and going up, and the crowd is getting louder and louder and louder and louder, and then they open the curtain, and I walk out, and it's like all heads turned, boom, like that, and I realized I was the only female on stage, and then these faces were looking at me, and I got on the drums, and I was like, yes, this is where I'm supposed to be.
How fun. That's awesome.
And the nervousness disappeared. And I worried a little bit. I used to, at that time, because being in this band, it was all kind of new to me. I always worried I was going to fall off my stool. I had put a seatbelt on it to make sure I would not fall.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
I know, it's hysterical. It's just like I had this fear, I'm gonna fall. I'm like, you're not gonna fall. I'm gonna fall. So I always dreamed of putting a seatbelt on. That's
too much. That's really funny. What was the name of that band?
Called Sterling. They were called Sterling, and they were doing a record deal. And when we came to Nashville, we were doing showcases. And they were talking to record companies, and the record companies loved that I was playing. They just didn't have the songs, and it comes down to the songs.
Yeah.
And that's why I love working with songwriters. It comes down to those songs.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I guess being in Nashville, you've been able to make lots and lots of connections. I'm sure that you don't go a long period of time without being able to play or record with somebody.
Oh yeah, it's definitely. I got songwriters that are calling me, and I specialize in drum tracks and creating the right feel for a lot of songwriters, and it's an important thing to get the right groove, because a lot of songwriters can't get the right groove, and they're using these little drum machines. But if you talk to a real drummer, we can figure out the right groove for your song.
Yeah. So how did you go from being a drummer on stage to being able to track for artists and being able to be kind of more of a producer and how all the electronic know-how that you have?
I just started. I got involved with recording on a 4-track Yamaha Porta Studio, and because I wanted to get my songs down. I was songwriting at the time, so I was putting down songs, and I learned how to bounce, and then from there I went to another kind of recording thing, and then I got a computer, and then I got a sequencer, And now everything is all in one. And I had this dream in my head that one day everything is going to be in the computer and you're going to have all your sounds in the computer. I don't know why I thought that, but that's turned out exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And I have this knack for computers. I just love software. So I learned software real fast. But when I got into how the software for audio is so much fun to use, then I said, well, gee, maybe I can, make some money doing songs for people. And it turned out a lot of people were asking me to. So I'd go in the studio in my own studio, and just got the right equipment. I went, I put money together, went to a store, said, this is what I want to do. They said, buy this, 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 this. And I said, I'll pay you to come to my house and set that up and make sure it works, because you never know how this is going to work.
Yeah.
It works better now than it did at that time. And so they come over my house, they set it up, and I went from there. And I just it was songwriting.
I love that. I love that. You've had such a diverse type of history with drumming, from drumming in school to being in the back of a band with a bunch of guys that you just met, traveling all over the place, to now major people are calling you going, I need you to track this. I need you to play this for me, and that kind of thing. So it's kudos to you. And I know that you've said something about playing on a cruise ship.
Oh yeah, you want to hear that story?
I do.
Oh my gosh. Again, it was at a time in my life when everything fell apart. The relationship fell apart. I had to move, and I was in a bad job. When those things happen, all of a sudden magic happens. Okay. So I get into this new apartment now that I probably really couldn't afford. And I get this phone call on my message machine, and it's a friend of mine. She'd seen me play the Bluebird. Oh, I had a job at the Bluebird.
Nice.
I worked there for a year and a half. I met everybody. I met all the songwriters, which I loved, because I love song. And so where was I? So this friend leaves a message on my machine, and she says, how would you like to get on a cruise ship and go out and play? And I thought, again, just like I did with the Nashville thing, I am never going to do something like that. And so I didn't answer her message right away. And I went out for breakfast, and I went to a Waffle House. You know what Waffle Houses are like down here?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you walk into the Waffle House, I'm sitting at the counter, and I'm hearing, it's covered, smothered, and they're yelling, and they're doing all this.
Yeah.
And my little voice went off in my head and said, if someone asked that woman who is serving if she'd like to get on a cruise ship and play, what would she say?
Yeah.
And my brain said, you better call that friend of yours and get on that cruise ship.
Right.
So I ran back to my house, and I got on the phone. I said, I'll take it. Let's go. And then I think I had left 3 days later, but I also had a job working at a guitar shop on Music Row. I was repairing guitars, believe it or not. And I had to call that guy up, and he wasn't a very nice person. So I didn't mind doing this, but I called him, I'm coming in today. And he goes, what do you mean you're not coming in? I said, I just got a gig on a cruise ship. And he goes, and I'm not coming back. And he goes, well, when are you coming back? And I don't know what happened, but my voice went, a year and a half. Bye. Boom. Well, it turned out I wound up on the cruise ship for a year and a half.
Wow.
Where that came from.
Wow.
All right. So I got, so my friends picked me up. We get on the cruise ship after a long drive from Nashville down to Florida. And I didn't even ask them, where was it going? I just said, where do I go? And so, because that's what musicians do. We pack up our stuff.
Right.
And then they say, put your drums on there. So I got my drums on there. I get into the cruise ship. I'm trying to find my room. I'm trying to set up the drums, and they're trying to take off. And we have to go to our muster stations to direct everybody to where they have to go to get to their boat. It's a practice drill. I don't know if you know, but they do that every cruise. Okay. It's a practice drill. Anyway, so I'm running around with my head off, right, trying to get all this squared away, get the band done, get these people to where they have to go, get into my cabin and the whole thing, get this all straight. And then finally the next day, I woke up and they said, you have to go get your ID. And so I said, well, where do I have to go for that? They told me how to get to there. Meanwhile, the boat had already left. I didn't even know that really it kind of had moved. It had moved. And so I come out to where I had to get my ID, and the boat was already docked. And all I saw were palm trees. And so the passengers starting to get off. I'm trying to get to my ID. And I look at this woman, I said, where are we? And she looks at me with this strange look. She goes, Nassau. And I was like, wow, Nassau. I've always wanted to go there. And like not knowing how could anybody get on a ship and not know where it's going, where it come from. Now that's where it rolled around. My father, I wanted to play the drums. I was on a boat to Nassau. And
wow.
On a boat to Nassau. So anyway, I wound up on that ship. I played with that band about 3 months. And then the lead singer didn't want to do it again. So I didn't want to get off the ship. So I went to the cruise director or the music director, and I said, is there anything else I can do? And he matched me up with another band that was coming on again and on another ship. On that ship. And so I matched up with, so the other band, my current band got off, these guys got on, we got to work. And then we wanted to keep cruising. So we did our 6-month contract. So I had been with 2 bands by that point. And we had to get off for a month. So I got off for a month and just went to Nashville, visit my mother, did all sorts of stuff. Got back on another ship, and that one I stayed on for a year.
Wow.
And
How wonderful. So is that a fun gig?
Oh my gosh. I just partied for a year and a half, I have to say.
Wow.
Really, really fun. And it was the Carnival cruise line. And it was just, your gig was you got on the elevator to get to your gig. You didn't have to drive. And you just played 3 hours a night, and you played 6 days a week, but you're off a day. And I met people from all over the world, and I hung out with 3 other women, and we went to every beach there was. Every time we got off the boat, we went to a beach. We did all sorts of really cool things. It was a great, great trip. The one that I was on for a year it went to the Panama Canal. So I went to the Panama Canal about 24 times in and out. Then eventually we went right through it and went up to San Diego, and then out to Hawaii, then up to Alaska for the season, came back down to Hawaii, back through the Panama Canal, and that was a year.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a really neat, I took thousands of pictures.
I'm sure.
I'm still in touch with a lot of those people. It was a great, great, great time.
Oh, that's fun. I bet after people listen to this and watch this, people are going to start contacting cruise lines going, how do I get that gig?
How do you get the gig? Right.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, is there anything else that you would like for us to know about you before we go?
Oh, that's really nice of you to ask. I pretty much have said just about my whole life of how it has been. But to this day now, I'm still doing audio production, which I absolutely love. I'm in video production now. I'm doing editing video for a country music TV show. So
nice.
I wanted to talk to you about possibly teaching a little bit about video editing.
Oh, I would love that. We should definitely put that together.
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, that'd be good.
How I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm just doing music videos for a TV show, and the software I'm using is free. So it'd be a really neat thing to show.
Yeah, PM me after this, and we'll put together a day that we could do a live, maybe that you could do a teaching on that.
Yeah,
that'd be perfect. And we probably need to do another follow-up to your DrumChartBuilder instructional teaching too, because we've got so many new members that didn't see it before, and so it'd just be nice to have that.
I'll keep doing it. To understand about the song form and how simple it is, and the method is so that you can just play a simple beat but know where you are on the map.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Before we go, would you have a second to go to the chat area and put where people can find you, like your social media contacts? We have somebody that said, from Donna Frazier, love your stories and your courage and your sense of adventure. You are so multi-talented.
Oh my God, isn't that nice? Sense of adventure. I do it out of fear that I'm not going to complete all these things in my life that I want to do. I'm like, well, you better just call them out. You better call the book. You know, you better do this. You know, just go out and just do it and just hope for the best.
Well, I love that though. I love that. That's how you get things done.
Right. You have to take action.
Absolutely right. I agree completely.
I got it.
Okay, so you guys, does anybody else have any more questions for Liz?
Sure, I have a question.
Go right
Hi,
ahead.
Liz.
Hazel.
You know I love your stories. And congratulations on your award. I had no idea.
Oh,
Could
cool?
you tell us where we can find that tune?
Oh, it's on the Jill Sissel website.
Okay.
JillSissel.com. You'll find the album. The album is called Haunted Highway. We worked so long on that album. But I'm really proud of it. It's a great Americana album, and we're working on another one now. It's really cool. We did just about all the tracks ourselves, but it came out really, really cool, and it was good to get recognized for the production that we did, and that's why I'm still going that route. I want to see if we can. Jill was trying to go after a Grammy this past year, but didn't get into the categories. Didn't get the nomination, but somebody was, helping her get there. So I said, well, let's do it this year. Let's do this record and start submitting. I mean, everybody tries, and we'll try.
That's fantastic. Good luck. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Well, I wanted to say thank you so much for taking your time. I love your stories. I love you as a person. I think you're wonderful. And I appreciate you being here with us, because I think a lot of people are going to benefit from hearing this and seeing this. And thank you guys for taking time out during lunch to hang out with us. Please feel free, once it's on YouTube and once it's on our social media channels, that you share it so that other people can find out about our group and can find out about these amazing artists that I'm bringing on. I just want people to know more about them. And just like you said, Liz, it's all about connection. So you never know who's going to come across and may hire Liz or may hire some of the other artists. And some of the gals that are in our group, we're getting new members every day because so-and-so, some guy at Guitar Center told them, hey, go look up Drummer Girls United, or Dom Famulero mentioned it when he was doing a Vader Zoom or something. So all of these people are finding out about the group and telling. So our group needs to be just as active in telling other people about us so that we can find other members out in society that they don't know that we're here. They would love to find us. I know, I hear it all the time when they finally do come across our group, that they're so happy to finally find us. So anyway, thank you guys for that. We have another amazing artist coming on. I think it's on Thursday, Hannah Welton. If you guys don't know who she is, please go immediately to YouTube and look her up. She used to play for Prince. She does a lot of master classes and things as well, and big time shows. She's a phenomenal person and drummer, so look her up. But we're going to be doing that. I think it's noon on Thursday, but don't hold me to that. It is? Okay, yeah. So I hope to see you guys there for that. That's going to be wonderful. But of course, I always record these, and we'll be putting those out on all of our channels as well. So thank you to Hazel for that. She's the one that kind of helps me keep my head straight with all of these things.
Hazel's great.
She really is. All right, you guys, I'm going to let you go. I hope you have a phenomenal day, and thank you so much for everything that you do as part of our group.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you.